Imagine that there's something we as players salivate for, more than new locations, more than dedicated clan space, and even beyond an in-game player weapon trading system. There's one thing players scream for, and it's of course Destiny 3. But that's not coming anytime soon, so let's talk a third Darkness subclass. Uncovering the weapon pattern to a new Trauma subclass comes from answering what links the Vow of the Disciples to the Dread's abilities, what secret did Rhulk try to bury in Root of Nightmares, and what power engine has been hiding in plain sight since the very first day we ever crafted a weapon. What if the final Darkness subclass isn't about raw elemental damage or simple control of light and shadow, but about weaponizing memory itself? When we dive deep into the Vow of the Disciple, we're not just walking through a pyramid ship. We're stepping into a Frankenstein's testing laboratory, one fashioned by the great and ultimate Rhulk, the first known disciple of the Witness. But what was he testing? It wasn't just weapons. It was memory. It was trauma. It was all threaded together using resonance. From the Shaping Extraction lorebook, Rhulk describes the foundation of his work. It requires violence. It requires trauma. These are things that leave the deepest marks, impressions on the world. This isn't just flavor. It's a blueprint. Rhulk weaponized emotional residue, embedding resonance into objects and beings through the scars of experience. In shaping resonant allies, he goes even further. The resonance sings in them. They don't just serve, they know why. This line doesn't just suggest control. It implies transference of memory and ideology through resonance. These aren't mindless constructs. They are paracausal echoes trained by memory and trauma, singing a purpose written into their very structure. Even the raid weapons reflect this. Before I kick into some Lubray's ruin, can I ask for you to sub or like the video if you haven't done, as this is what keeps me doing these videos. Seriously, it actually does. And I'd really appreciate the support. Now, for some Shattered Psyches. While their descriptions are minimal, they each carry shape tags, symbolic names that mirror internal transformation. The legendary glaive from the Vow of the Disciple raid, its shape tag is Shattered, and its lore reveals Rhulk's influence, embedding pain, betrayal, and resonance into a paracausal instrument of melee and projectile force. Aggressive glaive frames offer increased melee damage at the cost of shield duration, perfect for shattering psyches as well as bodies. It requires trauma. These are the things that leave the deepest marks. Rhulk Shaping Extraction. Its shape is Liberation, the first craftable raid fusion rifle with stasis energy. Precision frame fires a well-rounded burst with predictable recoil. Lore implies Deliverance wasn't just built, it was born from release, pain, and control turned inward. When wielded, Guardians echo this. Shaping frozen liberation from memory-locked trauma. Shape deception. Aggressive burst pulse rifles fire a 4-round burst, maximizing resonance feedback. Lore-wise, Insidious channels duplicity, betrayal, and the quiet echoes of forgotten pain, perfectly paired with the deceitful hand of the Witness. Deception isn't trickery, it's rewriting memory to make the lie true. Shape Devotion. A kinetic SMG with high rate of fire and superior mobility, this lightweight frame weapon accelerates narrative momentum. Devotion, in this case, isn't loyalty, it's sacrifice encoded in repetition. Every shot is a vow, every reload is a prayer. When shaped, it is the memory of who we served, who we lost. These all aren't just edgy names, they're narrative imprints. Each weapon is a mnemonic container forged through pain, serving a function the Witness deemed necessary. The shape tags signal that every shot you fire is a memory retold, a story reforged in a paracausal steel. Rhulk's use of resonance shows that memory can be a scalpel. It reframes meaning, it imprints pain, retells stories, and turns thought into obedience. The Squid People are my favourite dead species. They use the power of darkness like hosting a New Year's party where you hold the attention of everyone in that room right at the midnight countdown. Except this was millions of years ago and in a paracausal universe. The Kugu were big, and powerful, and they tapped into generational legacy of the memories and fury of their ancestors to manifest a massive blast that tore through a pyramid ship with such ferocity to draw the full attention of the witness. The Kugu became a threat. They became a target because darkness needed to be controlled only by the witness. This mofo was not letting some squids use darkness better than them. It was this attention that buried the Kugu in a mass grave. But through their adept attunement to darkness, the witness learned that it wasn't just a blunt instrument. It could be something much more finessed. Let me take you all the way back. In that fucking stellar standalone adventure that was The Witch Queen, we were introduced to deep side weapons. On the surface, they're part of the crafting system, red border weapons that allowed you to extract resonant elements and eventually unlock weapon patterns at the relic on Mars. But in universe, these weapons are not just gameplay systems. They're instruments of paracausal memory extraction and echoes of the Deep's manipulation of resonance. In lore terms, Deep Sight refers to an ability granted by the darkness, specifically tied to Savathun's trickery in The Witch Queen, where we, Lightbearers, access hidden truths embedded in the fabric of the world. When Deep Sight's activated, Guardians can see into the history, design, or psychic signature of a place or weapon. This isn't metaphorical. The weapons themselves are encoded with memory through resonance, which is where the deeper implications begin. The relic itself is a resonance engine, taking patterns of memory and reaching across time to pull these into existence using the power of resonance. We don't know why it exists. We know it looks like pyramid technology, but we aren't exactly sure why it was placed there for us. These weapons carry resonant elements, a crafting material extracted by use called attuning in-game. From the lore tab of weapons like Liberated Ruin and Collective Obligation, we learn these weapons are imbued with paracausal memory traces, remnants of the witness's influence. The Deep Sight resonance description states it taps into the psychic and paracausal imprint left on a weapon. Its creation memory. This is evidence that weapons themselves can contain and transmit memory, not just power. Take Nezarek's Whisper, a glaive introduced in Season of the Haunted. Its lore tab reveals it as a vessel for Nezarek's will, a disciple of the witness who was transformed into an echoing remnant after death. The glaive's flavor text states, "This weapon screams. It carries the memory of its maker's anguish." This is not poetic license. The weapon holds trauma as a functional element of its power. When you wield it, you literally channeling the resonance of pain and loss, a spectral imprint left behind in paracausal energy. Then there's Acacia's Dejection, a trace rifle from the Root of Nightmares raid, tied directly to the legacy of Nezarek and the witness's influence. Its flavor text reads, "Drains the resolve of its foes, feeding on their memories." This implies that the weapon's damage isn't only physical, it's psychic and paracausal, siphoning the enemy's will through stored memories. The rifle uses resonance as a means to erode not just body, but spirit and history. Finally, conditional finality. A shotgun introduced in Root of Nightmares and is a particularly striking example. Its flavor text states, "Split into halves, neither truly apart." This line describes a weapon that encodes contradictory states: frozen, stasis, and burning solar within one object. The gun isn't simply dual elemental, it's resonating with opposing forces simultaneously, preserving a paradox in its physical form. This duality hints at resonance's ability to store and project complex narratives and states of being. The weapons demonstrate how resonance functions beyond simple damage types. They encode memory, emotional states, and paradox directly into the tools Guardian use, making each shot, swing, or blast an echo of a deeper story. Every enemy we face in the final shape is a mnemonic structure. Their forms are sculpted by failed histories. The attendants use abilities that slow players' perception. Guardians report distorted cooldowns and visual latency. This isn't freeze, it's memory misalignment. Weavers, Strand, manifest internal schisms of dead scions, split between obedience and rebellion. Their Strand ability binds and confuses, resonates with our thoughts. Grim, solar, flying, psychically linked entities that suppress light. The zones they generate, dubbed Resonance Silence, aren't just anti-subclass, they're anti-identity. Tormentors Void, melee, imbued with glyphs that echo previous Guardian failures. Their glaives carry resonance glyphs, identical to those etched on Nezarek's sarcophagus. Subjugators, a dual element. Wield, stasis, or strand, sometimes both. Yemic and Selen are paragons of bifurcated trauma, split will given combat form. They aren't classed by element, but by fracture. So what does all this tell us about the power to form a pattern? The subclass dedicated to weapons of trauma, built in the same way as the weapons of sorrow, synergize with each other. A song of creation and grief to bring enemies to their knees in regret. Its abilities wouldn't center around burn, freeze, or suspend, but around imprint, erasure, and recursion. If our weapons already echo memory, then a subclass would formalize that echo as a toolkit. Melee, a reverb pulse, a punch that imprints a trauma echo. If the enemy dies while afflicted, nearby enemies receive delayed feedback damage. Stacks with grenade memory tags. Grenade, fragment of the past, a thrown object that distorts cooldowns and creates ghostly, false projections of the Guardian's memories, locked in a loop. Super, shape unending. Wield a memory weapon of pure resonance. Every hit pulls damage from the enemy to fill your darkness batteries. A slow build, but with incredible output when you reach the ultimate shape. When triggered, all damage is released as a psychic burst that scales with accumulated memory. Class ability, Glyph Ward. Embed glyphs on the battlefield. Allies inside get subclass resistance. Enemies suffer light lock and reduced ability regen. Aspect, Fracture Loop. Kills against enemies imprinted with memory echoes reset grenade cooldown. Feedback damage increases per echo bounce. Fragment, Echo of Ruin. Weapon kills when amplified or radiant spawn a memory shard that detonates on contact with enemies, applying Fracture. This subclass wouldn't just be a power, it would be a sentence, a retelling. You wouldn't wield fire or ice, you'd wield grief. You'd aim with memory, pull the trigger on failure, reload the moment you lost someone, and reshape it into pain. As Guardians, we've mastered light, stasis, strand, prismatic, but what we've never truly grasped, what the witness always held over us, is memory. It's not enough to remember the past. We must shape it for the future. And that, perhaps, is the final power darkness offers us. Not destruction, not creation, but a third path. Transformation through memory. We're not building Destiny 3, we're shaping its memory.
Wow, this has just been such a pleasure. I'm such a lucky boy. I can't wait to go home